Good morning and welcome to the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce Business Breakfast Series. My name is Kimberly Anato Lindloff. I'm the President and CEO of the Mid-Maine Chamber, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today. Before we begin this morning, I want to take a moment to thank our 2024 Business Breakfast Series sponsors. They include AT&T, Cross Insurance, New Dimensions Federal Credit Union, Nicholson, Michoud, and Nato CPAs, O'Donnell Lee PA, Sheridan Construction, and our print media sponsor is the Morning Sentinel. Our radio sponsor is 107.9 The Mix, and Kennebec Savings Bank, our video sponsor. Today I'd like to give special thanks to our additional sponsor, Central Maine Power Company. Please welcome our new chamber members. They include Brenda's Best Cleaning Services, Inc., China Lake Provisions, LLC, Dave's World, Oliver and Friends Bookshop, Saldana Tree Service and Landscaping, and Treasures of Alita Travel. Just a reminder to please turn off your cell phones in consideration of our guests, and to remind you that we are live streaming this, as well as taping it for rebroadcast and putting it up on YouTube. There are evaluation forms on your tables. Please take a minute to complete those. You can just leave them face down on your table or drop them off at the registration table on your way through. We do provide that feedback, obviously anonymously, to the speakers, and then our committee uses that to formulate what we're going to do next year for business breakfast topics. We hope you were able to visit the business spotlighter tables today, Baking with Danielle. If you didn't grab some yummy cookies, make sure you do before you leave. Fame, next to Baking by Danielle, and Healthy Communities of the Capital Area that have lots of resources, both of those tables for you. Thank you as well to our entrepreneurial spotlighter as he sneaks out the door. Thank you, Wyatt. Yeah, Wyatt. Again, thank you to the Central Maine Growth Council for this program and for the Harold Alfond Institute for Business Innovation at Thomas College for sponsoring it. We invite you to attend our upcoming chamber events. Next month's business breakfast will be held right here on May 9th, and it's entitled, What Happened? How Did Electricity Rates Get So Expensive? The State of Maine's public advocate, Bill Harwood, will address unusually high electricity prices and what can be done for you to lower them. He'll focus on standard offer prices, competitive electricity providers, and benefits provided to renewable energy developers. Bill will discuss storm restoration service costs after major storms and the need to provide financial assistance to low-income ratepayers. Again, if you want to register, you guys know how to do it. Contact Cindy. Our next business after hours will be hosted by Bingo Mountain Coffee and will be held where he manufactures his coffee at 7 Silvermount Street in Waterville. That's on May 15th from 5:30 to 7. We anticipate that's going to be really crowded, so we're asking people to please park in the side parking lot at Notre Dame, and there's a little path through the woods that goes right to Bingo Mountain Coffee. Mark your calendars for the Business to Business Showcase. It's going to be held on Tuesday, May 21st at Thomas College from noon to 6. Registration forms are available at our website, and booths are filling fast. I think we're almost at 90 at this point. For more information, you can contact Cindy either today or at the chamber. And gather your teams and members and practice your swings. The Mid-Maine Chamber Golf Classic will be held on Monday, June 17th at Waterville Country Club. That will sell out as it always does. So if you are interested in a team, please reach out to Cindy. And save the date for the area's largest music and food festival. That is happening on July 31st, the last Wednesday in July, not the first Wednesday in August. So it's at Hedda Falls again. It's going to be from noon to 10 p.m. And you have the opportunity to enjoy delicious food from area food trucks and restaurants, music throughout the day, headliner concert in the evening, a brew tasting, cornhole, a dunk tank this year, and more. So today's panel is a discussion regarding childcare and the important role it plays in an important component of our community's economic structure. There's going to be time to do Q&A following the presentations, and Cindy will be circulating a microphone for that. Is that true? Good. The panel is going to be introduced today by Michelle Jolalabi. She is our chair of the board at the Chamber and the vice president of Human Resources and Diversity for Thomas College. So Michelle.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. It is my pleasure today to welcome Tracy Fortin, Rhonda Kaiser, and Mary Jean Rummery. Tracy Fortin is the Chief Operating Officer for KVCAP Child and Family Services, Educare of Central Maine. Tracy has spent her career in the field of early care and education, committed to quality and systems change with a team approach. Her nearly 40 years of service have fueled her passion for collaboration through a multitude of public and private partnerships at the local, state, and national levels. Joining in the Educare Learning Network's mission since 2010, Tracy developed a team to lead the vision of Educare Central Maine and its work beyond the walls. Tracy holds a master's degree in human development and social justice, is a higher education instructor, and her forward thinking is instrumental in building initiatives to create opportunities for children, families, educators, and programs. Tracy stewards high-quality services tailored to community needs to positively impact the future of young children and their families. Tracy and her husband live in Vassalboro, a gathering place for their large family of 5 children, 7 grandchildren, and granddogs. Rhonda Kaiser is the Educare Central Maine School Director. In her 35 years in early childhood education, Rhonda has been privileged to work as a professor, coach, and trainer of early childhood professionals. She energizes and inspires those she works with to learn from their everyday practices to guide their decision-making process. She holds a master's degree in early childhood education and is currently the Educare Central Maine School Director. Leading a school of over 60 staff, she believes that a positive and healthy school culture and climate is the foundation of a high-quality learning environment that creates the conditions for effective teaching and learning to occur. She is the founder of the Maine State Parent Ambassador Program. Her passion to engage families as partners is essential in promoting positive child outcomes and influencing state and national early childhood policies. Rhonda sits on a variety of state and national advisory boards and holds a 282 teaching certification. She lives in Winthrop with her husband and has 2 grown daughters. Mary Jean Rummery is our parent ambassador. She is the bio mother of a 26-year-old daughter who made her a Grammy in October of 2023. She is also the adoptive mother of a sibling set of an 11-year-old boy, 7-year-old boy, 6-year-old girl, and 4-year-old girl. Mary Jean is currently fostering a half-sibling, 20-month-old, and 2 unrelated fosters aged 10 months and 2 months. Wow. Mary Jean sits as the KVCAP Policy Council Chairperson for the 2nd year and is on the KVCAP board as liaison to the Policy Council. Mary Jean is a fierce advocate for her children and for foster care as a whole. Mary Jean has been a parent at Educare Central Maine for almost 6 years and has had 4 children in the program. In her time at Educare, Mary Jean has become a strong advocate of the program, having gone through the Parent Ambassadors Program in 2020, which led her to sitting on several boards and being involved in many advocacy groups for early childhood education and child welfare. Please join me in welcoming Tracy, Rhonda, and Mary Jean to our panel.
Good morning. Okay, that was lengthy. So you'll be talked with, quite a bit, but we'll look forward to some Q&A as well after. Whoops, I'm doing the clicking. I'm turning it off. Just the center button? Technology is not my forte. So we're here today to talk about quality childcare, a vital component of a community's economic structure. And we're really excited to be here at Mid-Maine's Chamber Business Breakfast, and thank you very much for inviting us. In the next, 40, 45 minutes or so, what our panel hopes to achieve is we want to increase the acknowledgement, right, just the understanding of the need for quality childcare among your communities, state, national, but for this group to have a greater understanding, and then how you can be part of the solution that supports employees in workforce retention and attracting employees. So I'm Tracy Fortin, as you heard, and with our panelists, I'm joined by Rhonda and Mary Jean, and Rhonda will talk a little bit more when she's up here about what Educare is, and then Mary Jean will, of course, share the parent perspective, which is so important, and we're so fortunate to also have a little baby here today. And Mary Jean will talk about parent ambassadors, and together they're also going to be talking about some of the state data and the important things that are happening in early childhood. So childcare is an economic development issue. And we don't want to read through each of these slides, but this particular slide is really important. The fact that childcare as an economic development issue, businesses, right? It's an issue for businesses because businesses can't find employees. And parents, if you want to enter the workforce, you need to have quality childcare. You have to be comfortable going to work with where you're placing your child. The childcare programs, well, I have to have staff. I have to have quality staff if I'm going to operate a business. That's childcare. Educators often aren't entering the field, especially in early childhood, because are they able to make a livable wage? Children, if they're not in a quality setting, then there are some adverse impacts for children if they're not in quality settings. Are they ready for school if they aren't receiving what they might need during early childhood? And we know that children, and it's a blanket statement, but we hear this, we read this in the news, but there's a lot of stress out there for our families, and children react to that, and there are increased behavior needs and social emotional needs. Public schools are feeling that stress as children are entering kindergarten, and how ready are they? And you'll hear a little bit of data around that. And so communities overall aren't experiencing economic prosperity, right, due to the pervasive early childhood issue. So in the landscape, I want us to just take a minute. So in the audience, or those who are watching, take a moment and just take a deep cleansing breath. Just kind of silence your mind for just a moment. Close your eyes for a minute if you want to. But think back to one of your earliest memories. Okay? Think back to when you were a young child. Who was your caregiver? And how old were you in this memory? Think way back. Now think in that memory, think about what you were doing. Can you recall, right, what was happening for you? So just raise your hand if the term babysitter came to mind for you. Were you with a babysitter? One. Were you with a grandparent or family member or an aunt or, yep, there's some more hands. And then how many of you in your memory, your recollection was that you were outdoors? Oh, lots of hands came up, lots of outdoors. Okay. So typically many years ago, childcare was less regulated, not as much supervision, more informal care, right? That was the approach. And it's really important to realize that childcare needs have changed over the years. Not that kids shouldn't be outdoors, not that they shouldn't have freedom, not that it's not great to be with family members. Those are all vital components for a child, growing up in a healthy, natural environment. But there are different expectations now in terms of childcare, right? And some of our children and our parents, the needs are different than they were years ago. Some of the stressors are different. So the world is in a little bit of a different place. So it's really important in your place of business, you think about childcare, think about what's your frame of reference in terms of what are the childcare needs of your employees. Values can be different across generations of staffing. And you might think, well, that was good for me, or that worked for my kids. So we're going to embed in our conversation this morning a bit about some research, a little bit of data, and then a few stories that will highlight the need. So I'm going to share a few things. There's a plethora of information out there, more and more now, around the childcare needs. And I'll talk about it at the national level, but it really gets down to equitable, quality, and affordable, right? So equitable is access. Is there access for people of all incomes, right? Of all races, of all needs? Is there equitable access? And is there quality childcare that parents will choose? And I'm not saying it has to be everything top quality always, but is it the safe and the quality that the parents are looking for, where they are comfortable placing their child? And is it quality so that the children are receiving what they need so that they, together with the parents, are ready for that next step in their development and in their educational journey? So at the national level, just over half of those in the United States, people working, are parents, and 37% of those parents have young children. There are 15 million workers who have quit their jobs since 2021, nearly half of them stating they needed to take care of family. That's a huge change. If you look at businesses, they lose $13 billion annually in productivity because of the costs of childcare. That's a big hit on businesses. Businesses have to take a look at childcare as an issue. It can have an adverse impact on your business, and what can you do to help to strengthen that? I added these statistics up here, the statistics from the Bureau of Labor. The First 5 Years Fund stated, the U.S. Department of Labor, Forbes, just to share that these entities are all taking a look at childcare and the importance of childcare and the impact on the economy at a national level. So you have seen, in the news, you have heard, I would imagine, about there's heightened awareness, especially during COVID. There was a significant recognition that childcare is a need for programs across the country for businesses, and that they can't operate without their employees, and businesses are still recovering, because reliable, affordable childcare, it will promote parental employment and family self-sufficiency. So it's not only a national issue, it's a state issue and a local issue as well. And if you think about employees and think about someone who has, they're out of school, perhaps they've gone on to higher ed, but they're working, they're in their 20s, maybe they're in their 30s. At that stage of their life, they have a lower pay range. They're just getting started in their careers. And they also need housing. in order to, work. Rents are high. Can they find housing? Can they afford to buy a home? Is that part of their plan, part of their goal? Do they have educational loans that they also have to pay because they're out of school? What are their transportation costs so that they can get to work? And do they want to start a family, or have they started a family? And what's the cost of childcare? So we know that the greatest availability of workers, people who can, whom you can hire, for many jobs, are women with young children, right? To get started in the field and in the career field. But at the earliest, when you look at all of these factors, they're at the lowest earning phase of their career, but they have many of the highest costs to meet their basic needs for their families. These aren't, when you're older and you've taken care of some of these things, hopefully, and you're making other plans for renovating or vacationing or adding this garage or, or whatever you're thinking about when you think about your budgets and your costs. These are your basic needs. And where is it that families make cuts? Their groceries, their choices for food, their grocery bills, and their childcare choices. So access to affordable quality childcare, it can lead to increased work participation, a more educated and skilled workforce, and job creation. So we're going to hear a little bit more about state from Rhonda.
Good morning. Thank you, Michelle, for the introduction. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Educare Central Maine. If you aren't aware, we're an early childhood school right next door here. We're connected to the George Mitchell School. We serve 216 children, ages birth through 5. We have full-day services for families that are working and going to school, and we have part-day services. We provide the Waterville Public School pre-K services. We operate our lab school and learning hub, which is really meant to create a stronger workforce. Our lab school is really meant to be a model demonstration site, so we have a lot of practicum students from area colleges, and also observations occur, even going outside of the walls and thinking of not just early childhood professionals, but we have EMS students and nurses. A lot of different fields come in to do an observation at Educare. We also run a learning hub, which is we provide professional development, we provide space for observation. We have observation booths that look into each classroom, and we provide consultations, study tours, and some of the topics that we're very versed in include nature-based education. So when I saw everybody hold up their hand, that outside was a memory that felt really good to me. We also have high-quality teaching practices as a topic, intensive family engagement. We specialize in data utilization as well as embedded professional development. So I would encourage you, if you haven't had a tour, to come over and see us anytime. So Tracy just spoke about the access, the equitable access, and the need for affordable quality care. And this video here is a compilation of news clips that have aired over the past few years, and it really speaks to the childcare crisis and how it affects working parents.
Long wait lists or no access to child care at all. We have been following what we've been calling Maine's daycare desert ever since February.
Having a baby is one of the most exciting experiences in life, or can be, and while many soon-to-be parents are focusing on baby showers and gender reveal parties, for many of them there's something looming unnoticed. It's called the daycare desert. And as Clay Gordon reports, it can lay waste to a family's budget and push some parents to do something they never thought of doing before: give up their careers.
How are you supposed to go to work and make a living if you can't find affordable and reliable childcare?
That's a question working parents around the country and here in Maine are facing as daycares and other childcare centers struggle to keep their doors open. Our Sam Olson joins us with more. And Sam, this is a struggle that's been going on for years now.
Maine Children's Alliance has been tracking the daycare desert trend, a drop in Maine, specifically family childcare, over the last 10 years. Adding to the childcare crunch, some centers can't find or hire workers.
I think actually it may get worse as people are retiring. I'm not sure that we've got the people coming up behind them to take their spots.
My heart, really. It just, seeing all these kids not have anywhere to go and then the families not being able to work, I can only imagine the stress that's causing them.
Parents who need a place to bring their kids during the day. It's a problem child care providers in the area are experiencing due to lack of staff.
It's not an easy job.
Melissa Mattis is the Director of Operations at Down East Community Partners. The center in Ellsworth originally had 6 classrooms for daycare and early education. But in a few weeks, there will only be 1 classroom remaining, which is putting parents in a tough spot.
Can you imagine? Like, you have a job, you're providing for your family, your child's going to childcare, and all of a sudden that support is gone.
Well, we are hearing from tons of parents. It's hard to get into child care centers because there aren't enough of them, and the costs compare with some college tuitions. But tonight we're searching for solutions, and we have found a couple. A facility in Waterville called Educare Central Maine provides high-quality care using evidence-based research. They're providing more than just child care. They're helping the community, not only in Waterville, but in Somerset County, where they bring their expertise beyond the walls with a program they call Elevate Maine. It gives providers a coach or advocate, helps them meet their goals, and provides some financial support. Educare says the work they are doing could help out the state's economy.
So here's a quick glance, and thinking back to all of the information that Tracy just shared about sort of the then landscape in Maine, and just listening to some of these news clips, it really brings home the point that we really do need equitable, affordable access, quality access to care. And so this is just a quick glance. Again, there's a lot more information out there, but we have 38% of our families, low-income families, are living without licensed child care providers. During pre-pandemic, the number of the licensed child care providers decreased from 862 to 702, which is a drop of 19% in 3 years. The average cost of care is $11,700, which is 19% of a median household income. We have 50,000 children under the age of 6 that need full-time care. And we have a goal here in Maine by 2025 that 60% of the Mainers will have a credential of value. The Maine Measures of Growth report that came out indicates that 4th grade reading 28%, 29%, and 8th grade of math of 24% proficiency. So that is below the national average. And it has really declined since COVID. And we just have to remember that these are our future workers, future workforce. And so really to summarize this landscape is there's not enough childcare providers, not enough licensed childcare providers. The cost of care is extremely high, and our reading and math levels are below the national average. So we can ask, like, what are we doing? What are we doing to help with this? So we kind of look at this as like a 3-legged stool, and you'll hear continuously throughout our presentation about we need to assure equitable access to quality, affordable care. And the governor has invested $25 million in her Maine Jobs and Recovery Program to expand the infrastructure of Maine's early care and education. So we have here investing in Maine's early childhood care infrastructure. Office of Child and Family Services has awarded 150 grants totaling $9 million to support startup and expansion for childcare. And we also have invested Maine's childcare workforce through monthly stipends. So what this means is that this really pertains to a goal of retaining staff and recruiting staff. We know that the average salary for early childhood professionals is quite low, as well as even anyone in the education field. And so these supplements, these stipends are provided on a 3-tier system. And the system is based on experience and education of the individual. So if depending on what tier they're at, they could start off at tier 1 and receive an additional $275 a month. If they're at tier 2, it's $415, and tier 3 is $625, which is really just the beginning of really equitable pay. The expansion of the eligibility for child care assistance and Head Start, which the eligibility for child care assistance, some of you might know, is formerly called the Child Care Subsidy System. So in order to be eligible for child care, we are going to increase from 85% of the state's median, which is about $85,000 for a family of 3, to 125%, which equals about $103,000 for a family of 3. And we also this also includes expansion for the eligibility for Head Start services as well. And we also have an initiative to support our early childhood system through our Maine Preschool Development Grant, which is Birth to 5. And this actually will support or enhance or create preschool programs across the state. So we're going to look at one parent's story next on how the lack of quality care really affected her ability to work. And as you listen to this video, you'll hear all of those components of that 3-legged stool. And just want to preface this by saying that this week, April, who you'll hear from, is currently in DC for a 0 to 3 conference. And she is advocating for more federal funding for affordable childcare for parents, which actually gives me the goosebumps every time I talk about it. This video is a little bit of a lower quality, so you have to really pay attention to hear this. We did this at April, when April was first starting to really be comfortable with advocating, and we did this over Zoom. So I think now that she's out and about, we'll have to really look at doing another video, but there's a really clear message here that is really important to hear.
Becoming a first-time mom, I had a full-time corporate job, high-paying corporate job, and was forced out of that because of lack of daycares in my area. Finding full-time daycare was just something that was hard to come by. So my job ended up forcing me to resign from my position because they could not accommodate me without childcare full-time, which pushed me into going into the childcare occupation. And I worked at a childcare facility here in Saco, and thought that it was great, was very upbeat and motivated about becoming a daycare worker, and was so driven that it was going to make me a better mom, a better person, and I was just going to find out all the tools I needed for my little one, and had a hard, wide awakening of how that was not going to be the case, and how hard it really is to get good quality childcare for your child, and know that the daycare you're sending them to is doing a good job at giving them the tools that they need. When there was a state inspection that came through in the short time that I was working there, it was literally like putting lipstick on a pig, because they came running through the day before, prepping all their workers. All right, this is how what are you going to say if they ask you this? Don't say anything about this. And then coming in and putting books on the shelf for the kids, and showing that there was toys and stuff provided for the children, when prior to that, there was only ripped up books provided for the kids, and a very horrible choice of toys. So since being in the daycare facility that I was working in, I realized that it was stressing me out, and I was really concerned about the environment that I was in. So I ended up taking myself out of there, becoming a stay-at-home mom, and really just kind of leaning on the state to help us supplement what I'm not making, being a stay-at-home mom, making sure my son gets what he needs.
So it's a pretty telling story. As you can see, she struggled to find quality care, and if you could hear, there's also workforce issues embedded in this story, quality care, accessibility. So again, stressing that quality care is really crucial issue, and for many families in Maine at all different income levels. And the latest data shows that there's 500,000 children under the age of 6 that need full-time care. And so Mary Jean is up next to talk to us a little bit about that and a little bit about her perspective. Do you want me to?
Good morning. Thank you. Michelle, thank you for introducing. You made me sound really great. The one thing Michelle didn't get to tell you is that before I adopted 4 children, I was an executive assistant at a prestigious home health care agency. My husband and I went into adopting with open eyes. We were very aware that we're only given a certain amount of assistance. Once you adopt, that assistance stops almost completely. It's greatly diminished, let me put it that way. It became clear that at some point we weren't going to continue to have 2 parents working and 4 children in either daycare or after school care. The cost was just way too high. So I gave up my job. My husband makes far more money than I do. He has better benefits. You know the story. I would give anything some days for a daily conversation with an adult. And I think that a lot of parents that stay home would agree with me. I know that April would, because I know her personally. So I digressed a little. Sorry, Tracy. The lack of quality childcare options for families is disheartening. The high cost of childcare, the hours of operation become a problem. If a daycare, you work 6:30 to 4, but the daycare options in your area are 7:30 to 4, maybe they stay a little later, that doesn't suit your needs. So you have to have an employer who's willing to budge. Well, how do you ask your brand new employer to let you leave 30 minutes or come in an hour late every single day? Location is huge. I live in Norwalk. There's two daycares in my area. Go past that. Pretty sure there's not very many in Mercer, and maybe not even New Sharon. Maybe they don't even have one. I distinctly remember growing up where my childcare provider was my family, and I grew up in a city. I grew up in New Jersey. My grandparents, my aunts, my cousins, they all did the care for everybody, and it rotated. That's not the way of the world anymore. People are spread out. Families don't work that way because everybody's got to have a job that pays so that you can provide. The long wait lists, they are incredible. There is currently a wait list at one of the daycares that I'm fortunate to have children at that is over 100 people long. The lack of continuity when your family circumstances change. As I stated, when you go from being a foster parent to an adoptive parent, the amount of assistance changes. So for someone who's not in my situation, your job changes, so now you're making less money maybe, or you're making more money and now you have to pay more because you've lost your subsidy. Thank you. I cannot hammer enough that location, cost, and quality. And when I say quality, I'm not talking about everything has to be like Educare, although I am also going to be bluntly honest that I bleed Educare from my pores. Sorry. Educare loves your whole family. They take care of all of your family, not just your child. You're having a bad morning, somebody's going to ask you why. Somebody's going to offer some sort of assistance. I am fortunate to have multiple daycares in my home. It's not the same at every single daycare that I go to. So quality matters. Being comfortable dropping your children off and knowing that at the end of the day, they have been loved like they were loved when you dropped them off. It matters. Hours of operation, they matter. If you aren't able to complete your day at work, you are stressed, worrying about how you're going to get through the day. The environment, I often wonder, how many daycares actually take their children outside for a good portion of the day. The Norwegians put their babies in bassinets outside to sleep for naps. It makes sense that the fresh air and all of those things would matter to the growth of a child. The type of care, center-based, family child care, in-home, one-person type deals. It's important. What's the best fit for you? The best fit for me is a center. For some people, it's not that. They want the Mary Jean of the world who's going to auntie your children to death during the day and you're going to come get them. The ability to have mixed ages, siblings to be together, that's huge. I have two that go together. If the youngest one is having a bad day or a bad minute in the day, they can run over to the next hall, grab her sister. She can get the love and the comfort she needs, and then they go back to their own days. The philosophy of the child care program matters. What are you using for techniques for the meltdowns? Are you punishing a meltdown instead of trying to understand it? I'm really sorry that I got emotional. From a business perspective, I would tell you that I think it's important that you listen to your parents, that you bring your employee parents' voices to the forefront. Ask them what they need. You can start making the difference as a business, as an employer, by bringing their need and their voices forward. So I've got some quotes up here from some people. I belong to a lot of parent groups. Some people are really lucky, like the first quote. I'm unbelievably lucky to work for a company that gave me 12 weeks maternity leave using short-term disability, and then they offer 4 more weeks of time where they cover my pay. They also allow me to use my flex time as needed without consequence for my son's needs. That's huge. It's huge to know as a mom that you have the availability. I often feel like I'm less than a man because I stay home with our 3 youngest children while my wife goes to work at her corporate job. The reality is we can't afford the cost of childcare for both of us to work. Finding childcare that also includes meals, diapers, wipes, and formula was a godsend. Finding that childcare within 20 minutes of my job was a huge win. Having the perfect center for my daughter was worth the peace of mind I wish everyone was able to have. Oftentimes, you can find a daycare, but you have to provide all the extra things. that is a financial stressor. If I have to buy diapers for home and diapers for daycare, formula for home, formula for daycare, and so on, it's doubling our budget, a budget that's already stretched. To be able to have a childcare provider that offers all of that is a huge step, but it also most likely comes at a cost because the childcare provider has to cover that as well. I'm going to leave you with just one more thought. You all look like wonderful people. You probably own some really great businesses, and I'm sorry I didn't mingle as much because I got my little friend with me. If you are able to put your parents at the table for discussions on how they can be helped, I think that you will find your productivity, your quality of workers will only grow and be stronger because you will be elevating their voices and giving them the chance to advocate for themselves, their family, and their coworkers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jean. And I'm going to follow up from her story perspective with some actual data. In understanding the workforce childcare need, hearing it from families who have the lived experience, like Mary Jean and many others, is really important. The Office of Child and Family Services and Coastal Enterprises collaborated to develop a toolkit which provides options and examples to employers who are ready to help meet the childcare needs. So some of this data here shows us that within this report that 83% of women and 81% of men report childcare would be an important factor to whether they stay at their current place of employment, which is probably not very surprising. 86% of employers that were surveyed say that childcare benefits have a positive impact on being able to recruit and retain qualified, highly qualified, productive employees. When companies provide on-site childcare, it has been researched that the absences decrease by 30% and turnover declines as much as 60%, which is huge because we all know that orienting and obtaining staff, it comes with a cost. So to be able to retain the staff is super important. So then now that we've seen some of the childcare workforce needs, like how can we all be a part of the solution? There are some bullets on the screen here that talk about some of the things that businesses can do, individuals can do to help be the actual solution. And some of them are employees' input into policies, like Mary Jean said, listen to staff, listen to families. Family medical leave, what does that look like? Term working, which is considered that parents are working different terms, like whether they need to work during, like have holiday breaks off or have specific vacations off for their children. Flexible schedules play an important part to the solution. Focusing on work done rather than hours. So the compressed hours could look like 4 days a week. Remote working, and we all know after COVID that a lot of that is actually more okay with society now. And, looking at their productivity, we really see that can happen. And obviously some jobs you can have remote workers and some you can't. But just looking at, all of these pieces of being the solution, employers working fixed hours over a number of hours over a year, as opposed to certain number of hours per week.
Subsidizing childcare for parents is another solution. Job sharing, sharing roles, responsibilities between 2 or more employees. And I just recently had a conversation with staff at Educare and talking about sort of the different flexible schedules. And we were, two of the teachers came to me and said, we want to job share. We want to each work 20 hours a week. And so just thinking outside the box and being flexible like that is being part of the solution. And investing in dependent care FSAs, that allows employees to set aside $5,000 a year to be used toward childcare, which is tax-free. And on-site childcare, employer-sponsored childcare slots, and even providing spaces for childcare operations on-site. So in summary, I would have to say that research demonstrates that quality early childhood experiences, particularly those in the first 5 years, do work and are more likely to have outcomes for students, including higher incomes, owning their own homes, graduating from high school, and the less likely need for special education or public aid. And also for societal outcomes, not only are ECE programs good for childcare and families, but also they're good for society, and we all know that. James Heckman, we use his research a lot. He's a Nobel Prize winning economist, and he researched that every dollar invested in early childhood produces 7 to 10% in return on investment. So there's better health, social, and economic outcomes.
Thank you, Mary Jean and Rhonda. So what is Educare's role? Educare, as Rhonda was sharing, we're a school that operates and provides care and supports the community. We're part of a national movement, part of a national network. We were the 12th of 25 across the country. So the intent of Educare is to help educate communities and help to change public policy, increase awareness and change public policy around early care and education needs. And we've done a great job of that in Maine and more work to do, but that happens through partnerships. It happens through understanding the landscape, understanding the needs, and the uniqueness that our Educare program brings to this national network is we are the only rural childcare in the network. Maine brings a very unique perspective in that area. Chicago's idea of rural, right, is one thing. Maine's idea of rural is another. So when we have people from Chicago or some of these other cities come and visit our Educare school, you know, their idea is Waterville is pretty darn rural. Well, let me tell you what the Allagash is like, or you know, what's down east, or you know, we have a different idea of rural when we're here in Waterville, Maine. So our numbers are smaller for sure in comparison across the country. Our data is amazing. Our data is just, I'll just leave it there, but it's amazing. And what we love about being part of this project is what kind of change can we help make in our state, right? Not just in Waterville, but in our state. And you do that through partnerships. And we don't operate alone. Our Lab School and Learning Hub is intended to, how do we support businesses? How do we support other providers? We're not saying that, and nor is the network, that there should be Educare schools throughout the state of Maine. But if there's a component of infant toddler care and you have a rural provider and they are wanting some support because they have new infants who are enrolling in their program. How can we help strengthen that provider? How can we be a support? Jackson Lab came down to tour our program a couple times and talk with us. They wanted to invest in a facility. University of Maine at Farmington, Educare was a model for the building of their new facility. We're talking with someone in Rangeley. We have talked with just some other programs, but we're also a conduit. It's not come to us, we'll do this. It's you want to reach out to Coastal Enterprise. They have this resource. Have you looked online? Childcare Choices. That's going to list all of the licensed providers in your community. Go visit them. Here are some things you might want to look for. Choose what's a fit for your family. As Mary Jean said, location, location, location matters. I need to have somebody 5 minutes from my home or 10 minutes from my home. I can't drive 20 minutes in the opposite direction. That's not going to work for me in my employment. The workforce development efforts of Educare are with the Department of Education, with our higher education institutes, several of them. We work with KVCC, with Thomas College, we work with St. Joseph's. We have connections with the Department of Labor, piloting their early childhood apprenticeship program, so that what are the learnings for Department of Labor, so then they can help to have this credential and opportunity across the state to have more qualified workers in childcare. Childcare is a business too. More childcare workers, so that businesses can have employees to be able to find childcare in their communities. So as a business, and again, we're small, we're rural. The chances of building an on-site childcare, and that's often the first thing businesses will say, oh, we need childcare on site. Well, there's an economy of scale, right? You have to have enough employees who will use it. And parents may not choose that. They want the grandmother to take care of their child, or they want the center that's nearby, or they want that licensed family childcare provider who's been vested in that community for a long time. So if your business is small, you're not going to invest in that way. But what are some of those other ways that you are able to listen to your employees and reach out to some of the resources to help you think about what your options are? So you can certainly connect with us after. We'll talk. We have resources we can refer you to, and we would welcome any questions that you may have. Thank you.